How's it going, guys? Football-ManagerYouthDevelopment.co.uk here. In this episode, I'm going to give you 4 tips for making the most out of your Flair players on Football Manager 2016. In this video, I'm going to be showing you a guy called Bernard who I signed for my Chelsea team. Yeah, he's been doing pretty well so far, so he's got an average rating at the moment of 7.91 out of 14 games. He's had a few injuries, so he's had 7 sub appearances, but in the 14 games that he has started, he's managed to get 5 goals, 8 assists, 4 man of the matches, and yeah, he's been doing really well. So you can see here that it is dribbles per game is at the moment 4.89, which is pretty high. What I'm going to be showing you in this episode is just how I try and get the most out of my Flair players, and yeah, the things that you can do to try and do exactly the same. So my first tip, and quite a simple one, is just to make sure that you're putting your Flair players in a role where they're going to be able to kind of use their attributes as best as they can. So obviously a player like Bernard, hopefully you can see here, but he's got really good pace and acceleration, fantastic flair, really good dribbling, brilliant first touch, good technique, things like this. So yeah, you're going to want to make sure that you're getting the most out of his key attributes. You can also see that his tackling's only 6 and his bravery's 7, so you know, potentially a little bit like a kind of Ronaldo player. He's not going to particularly put his foot into a tackle. So when I'm creating a tactic, the thing that you want to do is to have a look at the player roles. I really do like I'm probably going to pronounce this wrong, but the role, which is probably going to be one of the best ones for getting the most out of your Flair players. So basically they're a little bit like an advanced playmaker, and they're basically just looking for positions where they can, you know, kind of pick up the ball. They're going to kind of be the main outlet when your team's attacking. So the whole point of using a player in this particular role is that you can kind of give him the ball and that he's just going to be able to kind of do as he pleases. So you can see here that it says, yeah, he does far less defensively, and he simply drifts around looking for space when the team is not in possession. So yeah, basically what he'll be doing, whenever we've kind of got the ball, he's just going to be looking to kind of move into any area that he can move into, just to try and pick up the ball as best as possible. So yeah, my first tip is just to make sure that you're giving your players a really good role. And to do this, to be honest, I would make sure that you're just having a real quick read of all these. Obviously, if you do have a player that's got a little bit more flair, but he can, you know, kind of tackle and things like this, then potentially you might want to be looking at the attacking midfielder position. I've been doing this really well with William recently on this particular save file. What he'll basically be doing, he'll be looking to kind of float around, just trying to make sure that he's, you know, picking up other players around, yeah, and just kind of make chances and things like this. But with William, he's actually got really high work rate and doesn't mind putting his foot into a tackle either. So yeah, he's really good, William, for, you know, kind of using his flair but making sure he's tackling at the same time. The next thing to do is take a look at the player's preferred moves. So if you click on any player and then go to profile, what you'll see is their preferred moves here on the right hand side. So a player like Bernard, I've already highlighted his pace, flair and dribbling skills, but he has the preferred moves of knocks the ball past opponent, which is obviously going to make the most of his acceleration and pace. And he's also got a preferred move of cuts inside from the left wing. So obviously when you've got a player like this, you can go to their training and you can request a preferred move. So potentially what I might want to do with a guy like this is get him to run with the ball a little bit more often. So just trying to find it here. So yeah, you can ask Bernard to run with the ball a little bit more often. I think, so although my assistant manager here says that he doesn't think Bernard would be capable of doing that, I do certainly think that he would be able to do that. One thing that would be quite a good thing to look at, so his anticipation and his decision makings are 13 and 14. I do think that's pretty much high enough for him to be able to run with the ball a little bit more often. Obviously you need to kind of pick and choose what kind of preferred moves you think would be quite good. But yeah, making sure that your player's got a preferred move to encourage him to use his key attributes like his flair, pace and dribbling skills are going to, you know, it's really important you're having a look at the preferred moves to make your player run a lot more. My third tip, and to be honest you should be doing this with any player that you've got in your team, but it's really important to come into the reports here, have a look at the stats, form and analysis. At the moment I'm just going to take a look at the form of this player. So we can see here that you basically just need to be checking out if your player is getting used in the most effective way. So, for example, against Newcastle, I can see that his passing completion rate wasn't too high. It's not absolutely diabolical, but I can see here that he made 16 key passes, which of course is absolutely fantastic. And considering that he's got an average rating of 9, I think these key passes are going to go a long way to making sure that he did get, the amount of key passes, it's really helped him to kind of get a higher average rating. On the kind of flip side, if you have a look here, he got a 9 average rating against Real Madrid. In this particular game, he only managed to get 4 key passes, but we can see here that he did actually get 2 assists. So the kind of type of passes that he was making, I'm going to show you in a minute, but what we're going to do is we're going to analyse the Newcastle game and the Real Madrid game just to kind of have a look at further analysis, just having a look at any things that we might be able to improve. So yeah, really good thing is just to take a look at the form and the stats. If you're kind of noticing things like his pass completion rate is not particularly too good, or he's not actually managing to get too many key passes in, these are the type of things that you really do need to be looking out for. So I can see here, whenever he does manage to get in quite a lot of key passes, like for example against Everton, he managed 16 key passes and he also got an assist. Likewise against Fulham, he didn't particularly get too many key passes, but again he got another couple assists and also a goal, so he got a 9.4 average rating in that game. He did actually do a hell of a lot of dribbling in the Real Madrid game, and of course he makes a hell of a lot of dribbles per game, which is pretty decent as well. So what we're going to now do is just take a look at an analysis of when he's dribbling, his key passes and things like this. So one of the most important things when you do have Flair players in your team is to be checking out how productive they are, where they're making dribbles, and of course how many times they're actually receiving the ball. So if you go into reports, go into analysis, there's a couple of things that you can do here. If you go to the passes bit, here, which is the second one down, you can click on passes received. So I can see against Real Madrid, where we were away, he did tend to receive the ball mostly kind of towards the right hand side, couple in the middle, but rarely did he receive it in our own half. So that's quite a good thing to kind of check out. Obviously he wasn't particularly too defensive maybe in this game, and he did receive the ball more often or not, kind of like in the centre, or at least in our half. In the Newcastle game, however, if we check this out, and he received about few more passes anyway he received, but we can see here that he received the ball mostly kind of in the centre, a few times out wide, but it looks like he did actually drop a little bit deeper in a few games to kind of pick up the ball. I'm not too bothered kind of where he picks up the ball, but the most important thing is just kind of what he actually ends up doing with the ball once he actually gets it. So I think it's going to be a good thing to analyse the Newcastle game here, so we can see that he got 16 key passes. So when you're analysing anything that's happening on the field, just for example this key pass that Bernard made here, one thing that you just need to be looking out for, so obviously it's good to check out your kind of team structure and the sort of shape of your team. So what we're looking at here, so Hazard has picked up the ball, and he's on the left hand side, so we can see pretty much in the middle that Bernard here has got loads and loads of open space. It looks like Newcastle are kind of setting up with 2 strikers up top. They've got a sort of more defensive player here, straight back 4 and then 3 in the middle. So we'll kind of press play here, and so what we're looking out for here is a key pass that Bernard is going to be making. Look how much space there is in the middle here. So when you're reviewing tactics and just kind of seeing what's happening, these are the type of things that you need to be sort of looking out for. Obviously Bernard's role that I've given him, he's allowed to just sort of go wherever he wants to, just to make sure that he's getting space for himself, so that he can basically do what he wants. So Hazard gives the ball to Ramirez, and we saw here how much space Bernard has actually got here. So because Newcastle have only actually got one midfielder in the middle, this guy Anita's just kind of in no man's land basically. Ramirez, again, I mean, Ramirez could potentially have sort of released Hazard here. He's got Ivanovic on the right hand side, he can do what he like. Obviously what he's going to be doing is passing it to Bernard. I would imagine that Mikel's going to kind of push forward a little bit more here as well, so Ramirez could have even passed it into Mikel. But you can see what we're looking at here when you're analysing your tactics is just, do your players have options, and have they got players that they can pass the ball to? So yeah, Ramirez is going to pass to Bernard. And the good thing about this, looking at my kind of tactics and the way I'm set up, I've purposely have set my team up like this. So I've made sure that Eden Hazard is kind of using his pace to cut inside. I'm using Diego Costa to make sure that he can get on the ball as much as possible. And also I am telling my fullbacks to kind of push forward just so that they can be in good positions to pick up the ball. You can see how much space my fullbacks have got here. So Bernard, what he's going to do is thread the ball through to Hazard, and that is going to be his key pass through. So you can see the amount of kind of space Hazard has got here. Yeah, so I don't know if anything's going to materialise from this. So unfortunately, yeah, my left back sort of got tackled here. No big deal, but you can see the amount of room that Bernard did actually have. He was able to thread quite a good ball through to sort of striker running on through, and that made it sure that he was able to kind of go forward and make sure that he got a key pass in. So having a look at the other things that I mentioned, so we've got dribbles here. Looks like against Real Madrid he was able to kind of dribble with the ball mostly down the right hand side, but when you're analysing what's going on, it's good to just sort of check out exactly when he's dribbling, why he's dribbling, and kind of what he's doing it when he is dribbling. So I'm just waiting for this highlight to load here. So we can see here that Ramirez is going to pick the ball up in the middle. Bernard is quite close to Cruz here, but he's left himself enough room against Marcelo on the right hand side. So what I imagine is going to happen here, so Bernard is going to pick up the ball. He's got a couple of options. He can obviously pass the ball to Azpilicueta, who's going to have sort of a little bit of space down the right hand side. Ramirez, I'm hoping, is going to kind of drift in here. Diego Costa is potentially going to be looking for that threaded through ball. We can see this guy, Sergio Ramos, is actually keeping him on side. And yeah, he's actually got a really, really good, kind of position up against Varane here for Diego Costa to be able to run onto the ball. So the good thing here is that Bernard's actually got a couple of, kind of positions to move into. One thing that I'm actually having a look at here, so obviously Real Madrid have got a flat back four. They've sort of got like two holding midfielders here, or midfielders that are around. They've got Isco and Benzema and Ronaldo, who they're not helping at all defensively. It looks like Gareth Bale is slowly making his way back, but he's not in a position at the moment to sort of help out with anything. So Bernard is going to look to take the guy on. He manages to get the ball down the wing. I'm not obviously too sure what actually happened after that, but we can see here that, he was encouraged to kind of take other players on, make the most of his flair attributes and, just sort of see what he can do here. I'm just going to click on one more before I end this video just so we can analyse this. So again, I've got my two holding midfielders here, a guy called Rode and Matic. They're kind of just holding their position in the middle of the park. So Real Madrid in this particular setup are, they look a little bit more solid defensively. Basically, they've got their two holding midfielders here. This time it's actually Isco who's a little bit deeper. So it looks like, yeah, Benzema's just kind of up top on his own. Obviously, Gareth Bale and Ronaldo are really, really wide here, so they're not particularly going to be doing much. One good thing, obviously, if Azpilicueta overtakes Ronaldo, then Ronaldo's probably not going to track him back or do anything like that. So, yeah, Bernard's going to pick up the ball in the middle of the park here. To be honest, at the moment, it's a little bit disappointing because he doesn't actually have too much on, but you can see the amount of options that we're going to be having in the middle. So Diego Costa's going to be looking to lose his man. We've got Ramirez kind of making a late charge into the box. Pedro's probably going to be cutting across here in a second. And we've got our two sort of holding midfielders sort of holding back a little bit here. So yeah, Bernard is going to be taking the ball out wide. Just sort of taking on their midfielders as much as possible, and he does actually draw a foul there, which is pretty decent for us, and we get a free kick in a good position. So I'm going to call this the end of the episode, but the main kind of key things is to make sure that tactically you're setting your players up, your flair players up, so that they're actually, they can actually use their flair attributes in a good way. Make sure that you're looking at the player preferred moves. Make sure that you're looking at the form and analysis just to make sure that that your player is making key passes, that he's dribbling enough throughout the game, or that he's given a license to kind of dribble and make the most of things. And then most importantly probably is just to have a look at the analysis screen. Just make sure that you're taking a look at where the player's actually picking up the ball, what he's actually doing with the ball once he's got it, all this type of thing. it really only just does take a few seconds to kind of look through all these different highlights and things like that. But where there were games where he was particularly more successful, like the amount of dribbles that he's making and things like this, it's certainly worth analysing that in a little bit more detail, just so that you can, you know, kind of see where you might need to improve or where you want to make like little changes. But yeah, I hope this video has really helped you guys. As always, do comment, like and subscribe, and we'll be back very, very soon for some more Football Manager videos.